there are hundreds and even thousands of different perfumes and clones and fragrances on the market. And if you're new to perfumes, it might seem kind of overwhelming, how can you choose one? How is one different than the other? How is one similar to another one? So the main thing to keep in mind is the fact that there are different fragrance families or perfume families that really is just a way of saying, that there's certain categories that certain perfumes fit into, and there's even really a wheel kind of diagram that you can take a look at to see, oh, I see this is similar to this one because it's kind of, related or adjacent to a particular scent. So there are 4 main fragrance families: fresh, amber, floral, and woody. And that may not sound like a lot, and that's because those 4 fragrance families are divided even into smaller kind of groups. You have soft amber or green families, or, things that are all kind of mixed together depending on where they are on that wheel. So I'll kind of explore kind of these different fragrance families, and most likely, if you ever have a chance to kind of experiment with different perfumes, you'll be able to pinpoint, which family a perfume might be in. So take floral for example. The floral perfume family or fragrance family is one of the most popular. Floral perfumes in general have always been very popular, just because they're sweet, they're fresh, refreshing. So there are hundreds of floral perfumes that you could buy. One of which that I have and quite like is Red Door by Elizabeth Arden. And Red Door is full of just floral notes: lily of the valley, jasmine, rose, orange blossom, basically whatever floral note you can think of, it's probably in Red Door. And of course it has some musk at the bottom, some woody notes, but they're not very prominent. This is mainly a very fresh and floral kind of perfume. And there are a few different variations for floral perfumes. Like, there's just straight floral, which is obviously, just pure flowers. But there's also soft floral, which is a bit different, not so in your face, more just kind of almost as if you're smelling flowers from a distance. And then also in the floral group is fruity perfumes. So usually fruity perfumes have florals mixed in. And they're usually a bit sweeter than regular floral fragrances. So, think of plum or peach or apricot kind of mixed in. And I actually think Red Door has some fruity notes mixed in, but just from this little bit of variation, you can kind of see how floral fragrances can differ from one another. The next fragrance group is the fresh group, which, as the name suggests, it's meant to be fresh, refreshing, bright, that sort of thing. So the main example that I have for that is Light Blue by Dolce & Gabbana, which is really designed to be a very, very fresh scent. The word fresh really describes the scent perfectly. It has notes of green apple and citrus with a few floral notes, but mainly green apple and citrus. And some people say they detect, fresh linen, notes similar to that. And for that reason, this is kind of the epitome of fresh scents. There are others, of course, but this is definitely a really good example. Besides just kind of general freshness, in that category, there are also water scents, so like marine scents, say even some Dolce & Gabbana perfumes, not this one in particular, but some have notes of, the ocean, salt water, or sand, stuff like that. So that would be kind of a marine water fragrance. There are also aromatic fragrances, which are usually more herbal. They might contain, rosemary, oregano, you know, like cooking herbs sort of thing. So it's more of a grassy kind of fresh fragrance. Which also comes into green, which is another, you know, very similar kind of group. But green fragrances are usually more towards softer green notes, like green tea, aloe vera, stuff like that, you know, more stereotypical plant notes. And there are also, of course, citrus notes, which are often found in the top notes of a lot of different perfumes, even, you know, perfumes that are completely not in the fresh category. But then there are perfumes that are more purely citrus. I wouldn't say light blue is purely citrus, but there are some that pretty much completely smell of, you know, lemon or orange or something similar. So you have all those to experiment with. And the next kind of group is woody fragrances. I would say my example of a woody fragrance is Joy by Giampetto, which is considered a floral fragrance because it does have, I think it has like 10,000 flowers mashed into it, but besides that, it does have very, very strong and very prominent and very long-lasting wood notes, and mainly kind of sandalwood, some cedar, some oak, and those are all very prominent right off the bat as soon as you put it on. And those wood notes were pretty common because back in the day, because Joy came out in 1930, so obviously with such a long history, it's bound to be different from more modern perfumes, and that difference is mainly in the prominence of those wood notes. And of course there are some different groups in the wood group. There are dry woods, which as the name suggests, you know, you can think of dried leaves or an old tree, a dead tree, some old tree bark. So not a fresh woodiness, more like kind of autumn sort of vibes. Then there is just regular woods, which, you know, is more generic, and there are also mossy woods, which is, it blends in with kind of the more fresh, more green notes, so more of a springtime kind of woodiness. Maybe mixed with some florals, or, you know, it depends on the fragrance, but I would say Joy is more of a regular woodsy fragrance or a dry woodsy fragrance. Not so much mossy, not too fresh or anything, more like more of a rustic woodiness. So then the last fragrance family is amber. Amber, of course, is resin from a tree. You know, you could just find amber samples that go back millions of years, but in general, amber is a very resinous, kind of rich, not quite woody, although it is similar, kind of fragrance. For that, I have Shalimar as an example. Shalimar is another pretty old perfume, which came out in 1925, I believe. And amber is usually found in the base notes of perfumes, but then there are some perfumes that are, you know, mostly amber, you know, throughout all the notes. And amber in general is more of a heavy kind of fragrance, more kind of a sultry kind of fragrance, and warm, a very warm note. And there are also a few different categories of amber fragrances. There are woody amber fragrances, as the name suggests. It combines the resinous nature of amber and then pairs it with kind of the more rustic nature of the woody notes. And there are then just regular amber fragrances. They can differ depending on, you know, what the fragrance is trying to accomplish. And then there are soft amber fragrances, which tend to err towards floral fragrances. So you could kind of mix the lighter, fresher notes of florals with the heavier, kind of sticky notes of amber. Shalimar in particular, I would say, is a very, very heavy amber fragrance, very resinous, very, you know, as if you got some pebbles of resin and set them on fire, and smoky, kind of a bit spicy, all that mixed together. So, but, you know, as you can see, all of these even though I only used a few examples, there are endless possibilities on this wheel of fragrance families, and for that reason, you can always discover something new when you try a new perfume or experiment with new fragrances. So there's always room for exploration, experimentation, and all that. So if you have any opinions or anything to say about fragrance families, you can leave a comment down below. If you liked the video, leave a like, maybe subscribe, and I make videos throughout the week, so stick around for those.